Welcome to the second class of college writing. Today we'll look at the writing process. We talked in our last class about the stages of drafting. We said each essay will be written in 3 drafts. So here we'll look at what are those 3 drafts, what are the stages of writing and of drafting, and finally at homework. What you see here in front of you is popularly referred to as the rhetoric triangle. In the rhetoric triangle, writing is assumed to be a 3-part process, a 3-way process. One end of the process is you, the writer, but then you don't write in isolation. You write keeping 2 factors in mind. One is the subject you're writing about, and the second is who your reader is. In our last class, we looked at how you would reword a tweet or a Facebook post if it's targeted not to your friends but specifically to your parents and grandparents. So based on who your reader is, you typically tend to reword what you write. Another example of this could be, say you're writing an essay on music. If you're writing the essay for a professor of music, the way you would write the essay would be different if it's a research paper for a professor of music. But say you're writing about music in a popular magazine for the consumption of a general audience, the way you would reword the same subject would be different. Which brings me to the next aspect of the rhetoric triangle, which is the subject. This also influences how you write. So for instance, again, let's take the same example. You're writing about music, but say it's for a psychology paper, so you're writing about music in the context of music therapy in a psychology paper. You would include a lot of jargon about psychology, about how music therapy is used for hypnosis and things like that. On the other hand, if you're writing about music for a music class, you would focus more on the concepts of musical notes, scales, rhythm, and factors which are specific to the music paper. So it's the same topic you're writing about, but based on your subject, you change just the content of your writing. So as a writer, you always keep changing what you write based on your subject and based on your reader. And an overall governing factor is the context, which is the context of the essay you're writing. So Unit 1, the first essay, is a personal essay. So all the details you include will be a lot of personal details. Say you're describing a place or maybe certain personal objects that you own. You will be describing them from the perspective of what you think. So there will be a personal touch to what you're describing. There would be a sense of emotion or relationships playing in the personal essay. Unit 2 is an academic essay where you're responding to an assigned reading. So you will constantly refer to the assigned reading in the essay that you're writing. Unit 3 is a research paper, so you will bring in other research elements to support your claim or stance. And finally, Unit 4, which is a reflective essay, there will be a lot of reflection. So you will use a lot of keywords like I observed, I thought, I feel. So factors which sort of point towards reflection. So based on your context, the way you structure your essay changes, and based on your subject and your reader, the content that you choose to include changes. So you as a writer are constantly governed by who your reader is and who your subject is to decide the content of your and style of your essay, and you use the context to decide the structure and approach to your essay. So to ensure that you get the most out of the writing process, as somebody who's writing, you need to devote a lot of time and resources, which is why you'll be making multiple drafts of your essay. At the same time, you will also be using the feedback which your peer and me as your teacher provides. So use those external feedback to see what you as a writer cannot see about your writing. Experiment and improve. Like I said, playing with structure is very, very important. Like the essay that you read in your previous class, The Story of the Woods, you noticed how the writer used quotes from Thoreau's essay to enhance the overall appeal of his essay. And by circulation, I mean ensuring that we have a wider audience more than just our class audience. So for this, towards the end of this class, I will be creating a blog in which I'll place all your essays, the final drafts of all your essays, and that will be linked to the writing programs blog, the University of Massachusetts writing program blog. Then reading is where you place yourself as a reader. So when you read essays, you get ideas about yourself. You also understand, for instance, when you read the essay that I'm assigning today, My Metaphor Wastelands, the author talks about certain objects they own and how those objects stand for something in their life. So I'm sure reading that would give you ideas about objects in your own life. You also understand stylistic and structural influences and how you can shape your content based on certain stylistic choices, based on how you choose to structure your essay. And by reading each other's essay, which is why we have a peer review concept, by reading each other's essay, by reading each other's posts in the discussions section for in-class activities, you also develop a sense of writing community within the class. So blowing things into proportion is your Unit 1 essay. We talk about how a specific place or an object or a situation or even a person in your life helps you perceive something about yourself. I'll be sending in a more detailed prompt for the Unit 1 essay, but this is an overview of what you'll be doing in Unit 1. So these are the different stages of writing. So when I say there are you'll do 3 drafts of your essay: the initial draft, the revised version, and the final version. You will be graded for the way your essay improves from one version to the next to the final version, and also based on the quality of your final essay. So generated writing, like I said in my last class, is like the gym of the writing process. It's where you warm up your mind and thought process to actually go ahead and write your initial draft. What you do, and it provokes you into thought, and this is done by reading. So you generate ideas by doing generative writing exercises and by reading what your peers share in the discussion section. You're provoked into thought, and then the initial draft, once I share the prompt for the Unit 1 essay, your initial draft is a rough skeleton. Think of it as a place where you'll just put all your ideas down. You might not necessarily flesh everything out, but it's where all your ideas are there down on paper. From your initial draft, you do the revised draft based on teacher feedback, based on peer feedback, based on reflective writing, where you'll reflect on your own essay. So this is called self-reflection. So you technically have 3 sources of feedback. One is yourself, where you'll look at your essay and as a critique, and you'll critique your essay and get some based on your reflective writing, get some feedback based on your own critique. Then you have the feedback of your peer, and you have my feedback as a teacher. So based on all of this, you go from the initial draft to the revised draft. From the revised draft to the final draft, so it says peer response, but there will be no peer response. You will copy edit based on the Penguin handbook, which will give you grammar tips. I will point you to the appropriate sections, but you will be reading that on your own. So based on the copy editing goals, so making sure your essay is nice and polished in terms of grammar, and based on the goal, you will look at what are the goals of the course, what are the goals of the unit. So you will look at the prompt that I sent again between the revised and the final version, just to make sure that you're satisfying the goals of the unit, and then you have the final draft. So the content, so if you look at the initial draft, is a rough skeleton. The revised version is where you revise for content, and the final version is basically copy editing and polishing the essay and making sure you're meeting the goals of the unit. We'll just look at the homework briefly now. So last week you selected a favorite object and you wrote an objective description of the object. Right now what you'll do is you'll write a subjective description of the same object. So instead of and this time, instead of timing yourself by paragraphs, you would time yourself saying, well, give yourself 10 minutes to write it. Whether you come up with 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs, it doesn't matter. Just free write for 10 minutes and write a subjective description. So for instance, I had selected a marble elephant, and I would write things like, it's a family heirloom, it's been in the family for 3 generations. In my opinion, it's beautiful because the marble shines when the sun falls in it. So I can wax poetic, I can write whatever I want in terms, because it's a subjective description, so you can be as you can bend your description as in how it suits you, but make sure you limit it to 10 minutes. In terms of the reading response, this short essay, it's about a 1.5 page essay. Please read. My metaphor weighs tons. I had sent this to you by email. And once you read it, answer the following questions. One is, in analyzing a specific habit, what has the author learned about himself? So the author is a collector. He collects endlessly, almost bordering on being a hoarder. So what does the author learn about themselves by analyzing this habit of theirs? The second question is, we are all collectors. What aspect of your life did this essay remind you of? Put both these responses on your Google Doc before the next class. And finally, Unit 1, so it's a personal essay that talks about an event, object, person, or moment in your life and how that has shaped you, how in retrospect you perceive that event, object, moment, or person. So you can use all three kinds of writing: objective, subjective, and reflective writing, which is why we had the objective and subjective description of your object. It would prep you up. So that's what generative writing does. It preps you up for writing your final essay. I will send in a more detailed prompt via email. I would have shared it with you by the time you see this video, so please read the prompt in detail and go ahead and write your essay. The word limit, etc., is there in the prompt I sent you. Thank you.